Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is July 14th, and taking a look at the visible satellite imagery, you can see some glorious sunshine across much of the Pacific Northwest. See some mid-level clouds moving into Vancouver Island and British Columbia, bringing some light precipitation, though. Down here in Washington and Oregon, you can see these low clouds have infiltrated in a bit inland here. You can see it coming into the Puget Sound, the southern Puget Sound, and kind of encircling the Olympic Mountains there. You can kind of see where it highlights where these valleys are in the west slope of the Olympic Mountains, for example. All this should burn off by this later this morning into afternoon. Not so much for the Washington coast on Friday afternoon, and then we're going to get a pretty good marine push on Saturday. It's going to bring clouds all up against the Cascades and maybe some light drizzle as well. And then the potential for some showers for North Washington into BC as we go on and through Sunday afternoon. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. You can see the troughing here over the Gulf of Alaska, bringing that light precipitation to portions of BC. A couple nice warm days for Washington, Oregon coming up here before we start to cool back down again this weekend with some onshore marine influence. You can see Hurricane Darby still lives down here. It's got its little eye on it there. It's going to hit some wind shear and some cooler waters here. It's going to get decimated here pretty rapidly, as the Hawaiian Islands here, you can see, are still getting some trade winds. You'll notice those low-level clouds coming out of the northeast there. That's kind of the gentle showers it brings to the windward sides of the Hawaiian Islands there, and it brings very nice weather there, especially during the summertime, a nice breeze to cool things down. So checking this out here, the column integrated cloud water has been doing pretty good with the low cloud infiltration into the Puget Sound the last couple of days. You can see it probably overdid it a little bit this morning, but we should burn off the entire area by about 11 a.m. And then as we go on into the overnight and morning hours, you can see it build back into the Puget Sound, maybe a little bit into the Willamette Valley. Burns off for most areas again, except maybe portions of the Oregon and Washington coast. And as we go on into Saturday, you'll notice that pretty good marine push banks up against the Cascades. You can kind of see the moving into the valleys or the Cascades of Oregon, for example, and we don't burn off fully until really later afternoon on Saturday. So definitely a much cooler day coming Saturday and Sunday, as this upper level trough is going to be swinging through and bringing some drizzle maybe even Saturday morning. So we'll be sure to watch that as we get a little bit closer to it. Seattle yesterday, 77, right at average. And today we'll probably be into the low 80s, so a little bit above average for Seattle today. Portland, 80 degrees. Warmer than that probably coming here today, maybe mid-80s can be expected for Portland. Astoria, right around average, maybe a degree or two warmer today. Spokane doing pretty nicely over there, upper 80s, probably upper 80s again today. Now checking out this system here, this is last night's European run. You can see that precipitation kind of moving through BC and Vancouver Island here. As we move into Friday here, you can see some of this activity getting closer to the Olympic Mountains here and the Washington coast, and that's why those clouds are not going to dissipate during the day Friday, at least for the coastal areas. And then you can see as we move through Sunday, you'll see some shower activity there for southwest BC and for portions of northwest Washington, and you can see thunderstorm activity may resume here in eastern BC on in through Alberta as we go through Sunday afternoon into Monday here. So this trough is going to swing through here and definitely cool us down here before we're bound to bounce back, it looks like, through mid next week, and potentially get warmer later on in through July. We'll take a look at that here coming up in a moment. This is yesterday afternoon's European run. There's that trough of the Gulf of Alaska we saw in the infrared satellite imagery. You can see that swinging through. That's going to increase our marine layer, bring some drizzle, maybe some showers to portions of the Pacific Northwest as we go on into Monday morning. And then we kind of bounce back a little bit, maybe of a onshore push here as we go on in through mid or later next week. But then as we go on into the extended, you can kind of see this next trough carving out a little bit further north, and that could help build some ridging over the area. So we'll have to look for that to see if we start to warm up here as we go on in through later next week and later July. And this is the GFS. Let's see if it shows the same thing here. And this is the 060. So last night's run, trough moves through, some drizzle, perhaps some light rain, some thunderstorms, eastern BC, Alberta. That kicks through, and then maybe midweek too, we might get a little bit marine push or a little bit of a marine influence onshore flow here with this midweek one. And then we have to see what's going to come here in the extended. Are we going to dig this trough out further north? Are we going to get rid of this troughing and build a ridge and start to warm up into later July? That's all yet to be seen, even though the extended, the GFS here kind of continues to bring troughing and some onshore flow. But these systems are not very dynamic, so either way, we're probably going to remain in a nice summertime pattern here for much of the Pacific Northwest. Looking at Portland, you can see the cool down from the trough this week and then a bounce back a bit early next week, and then maybe that trough swinging through late midweek coming up there. But the story remains, we're going to be in a nice seasonable summer pattern here, except for this weekend. We might be dealing with clouds most of the day Saturday and Sunday. So a little break coming up, but it's still going to be fairly pleasant across the area here. Spokane, you can see a little bit of a cool down with that trough that passes north, and maybe a little bit of a bounce back through next week. We'll continue to monitor that. Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the troughing there for Sunday and Monday coming through here. Saturday is going to be pretty chilly actually too. It's going to be, mostly cloudy for a lot of the morning into the afternoon with some light drizzle possible before we potentially warm up again mid next week. And we'll have to watch those troughs out in the extended as well. So get out and enjoy that sunshine. Those low clouds are going to burn off by this afternoon. The summer pattern is here. If you want the heat, go to eastern Washington, Oregon, and up into the valleys in British Columbia here. If you want thunderstorms, go back out to eastern BC for Sunday evening into Alberta. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to go chasing out here on in through early next week or this weekend into next week. But I'll have to make that decision here coming up shortly. But yeah, hopefully you guys are liking the page. And I know we're kind of in a downturn here of actual active weather, but the page activity has remained good. So I'm hopeful for when things start to become active again, the page activity will pick up again. Like and subscribe will help get the word out about the channel. And I'm working on the all-time windstorm video here. We're going to go over the classic windstorms of our past. We're going to look at the atmospheric conditions that brought them. And we're going to look at some of the, just how often these windstorms happen. We haven't had a big signature windstorm here in the Pacific Northwest really since 2006. We've had a few decent storms, but nothing that you can assign a name to, for example, like the Hanukkah Eve storm or the inaugural day storm. Some of our great storms of the past. So we'll go ahead and I'll do a video on that. It'll probably be much longer, probably 20 minutes or even more, and it'll go over individual events from 1950 up until just last year's storms, and we'll look at those in very much detail here coming up here. So continue to pass the word along, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.